Chosen one, this moment did not find you by chance. The fact that your eyes landed here, that subtle stirring you feel inside, this is not coincidence. Music. This is an appointment set beyond time. Every step, every delay, every unseen turn was arranged so you would arrive here now, because something has shifted in the unseen realm, and it has your name on it. Anointed one, you are standing at the threshold of a divine movement, one that may unfold faster than you expect. While the world rests tonight, heaven is active concerning your life. By the time morning comes, what you've been praying for may no longer exist only in hope, but in reality. The moment is approaching. You can feel it. That inner stirring, that quiet urgency, that holy anticipation your spirit recognizes even if your mind hasn't fully caught up yet. Chosen one, if this word resonated deep in your spirit, if you felt that quiet confirmation inside, this is your sign. Pause for a moment. Breathe and seal this appointment, like this message as an act of agreement. Subscribe now, not casually, but intentionally, because what's being released here is only beginning. This channel is on a divine assignment, and we are moving toward 5,000 subscribers to expand this work to those who are still searching for confirmation, hope, and truth. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel, you're helping this message reach another chosen one who needs it right on time. Share this with someone whose spirit has been stirring. And remember, this wasn't random. You were meant to hear this. Your soul knows. The time that once felt delayed is now pressing forward. Scripture reminds us that the promise arrives exactly when it is meant to, not early, not late. And chosen one, that appointed moment, is pushing through the space between heaven and earth right now. This is not ordinary time. This is divine timing, when purpose overrides the clock. Your body, your environment, your circumstances are about to witness something undeniable. God is preparing to make your life evidence that He is real. But hear this clearly. You are not becoming proof in the loud way, not standing on stages demanding attention, not arguing beliefs or defending faith in debates. No. You are becoming something far more powerful. The kind of proof that doesn't announce itself. It simply exists, and by existing, it changes atmospheres. The kind of proof that causes skeptics to stop mid-thought and quietly wonder, something deeper is happening here. I remember a moment, sitting alone in a parked car years ago, tears falling, feeling like everything had fallen apart. The relationship was over. The finances were drained. Faith felt dangerously thin. And in that silence, not through sound but through something deeper, a truth settled in my spirit. I am not finished with your story. Your wounds were not disqualifications. They were signatures. And chosen one. That is exactly where you are right now. While you thought you were just surviving, heaven was shaping you. While you walked through fire, others assumed you were simply getting through another day. They saw routine. God saw preparation. They thought you were enduring. God was engraving. Every night you cried yourself to sleep. Evidence was forming. Every betrayal that should have hardened your heart, proof was being forged. Every prayer that felt unanswered was being stored, not ignored. None of it was wasted. And here's the truth that will shift how you see yourself. Some people around you only believe in what can be measured. Numbers, logic, control. But when they encounter you, their systems begin to fail. Your endurance doesn't fit their equations. Your peace after devastation doesn't make sense. Your calm in chaos breaks their emotional logic. And that's because it is not natural. It is supernatural. God has intentionally made your life a demonstration. While others preach with words, you've been preaching with perseverance. While arguments are made in classrooms and comment sections, your life has been quietly proving faithfulness. Every time you rose after falling, every time you forgave when bitterness would have been easier, every time you believed when belief felt foolish. That's why the weight has felt so heavy. You weren't only carrying your own battles, you were carrying evidence that would reignite faith in people who gave up long ago. And listen carefully, because this matters. You weren't chosen because you were visible. You weren't selected because you had a polished testimony. You were marked because of what you did when no one was watching, when there was no applause, no recognition, no immediate relief. You still whispered gratitude through tears. You still chose integrity when compromise offered comfort. You still walked forward when faith felt fragile. Do you realize how rare that is? In a world obsessed with shortcuts, you stayed in the process. In a culture addicted to image, you chose honesty. In a generation chasing validation, you pursued truth, even when truth led you into loneliness. That kind of soul becomes undeniable. That's why people are drawn to you and unsettled by you at the same time. Your presence disrupts their explanations of life. You don't fit into the boxes they built to feel safe, and that's intentional. Your existence reveals what intellect alone can never reach. I once had someone, proudly skeptical, pull me aside and say, "I don't understand you. I've watched you go through things that would have destroyed me, yet there's something different about you. A light. It doesn't make sense." That's when I realized my life had become the message, not my words, my being. Chosen one, God is about to take every scar, every recovery, every lesson learned in darkness, and place it before people who need proof that heaven still moves. When they look at you, they won't just see survival. They'll see fingerprints of the divine. Your life is a sacred canvas, and every painful brushstroke was intentional. I know it didn't feel beautiful while it was happening. At 3 a.m., on your knees, begging for one breakthrough, it felt like chaos. In hospital rooms, rejection letters, empty rooms after disappointment, it felt like ruin. But it wasn't ruin. It was preparation. And now, the evidence is ready to be seen. What once looked shattered beyond restoration is no longer chaos. Now, Anointed One, the picture is coming into focus. Those strokes that felt random, the pain, the victories, the losses, the survival, are aligning into something astonishing. And when people finally step back and truly look at your life, they'll realize they aren't just observing you. They're witnessing divine craftsmanship. They're seeing what happens when heaven refuses to let go of the ones it has chosen. Here's what may surprise you the most. You still feel ordinary. You look at yourself and notice the same flaws, the same doubts, the same places where healing feels incomplete. You see the weak spots, the tender scars, the areas that don't feel strong yet. But listen closely. Even those places are part of the evidence. They prove that divine power doesn't require perfection to flow. In fact, grace moves most freely through what's been broken. Think about how shattered pottery is sometimes restored with gold, not hidden but highlighted, the cracks becoming the most beautiful part. That's what has been happening to you. Every fracture has been filled with glory. Every wound has become a channel for light. What was meant to end you has become the very thing that makes your story impossible to deny. That's why your life carries weight beyond words. This isn't about religious ideas or abstract beliefs. This is transformation people can feel. This is presence that alters the atmosphere when you enter a room. You're not pointing to a distant God who watches from afar. Your life points to a God who steps directly into the mess and creates beauty where ashes once lived. Just recently, I met a woman in a cafe. Within minutes, she was crying. She said, "I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but my daughter just tried to take her life, and I don't know where God is anymore." I didn't quote scripture. I didn't preach. I simply shared how God met me in my darkest hour. And as I spoke, something shifted in her. She whispered, "If he did that for you, maybe he hasn't forgotten us." That's the power of living proof. So don't despise the pressure you've endured. Don't resent the seasons that stripped you down. Those weren't random attacks. They were the chapters that gave your testimony credibility. Without them, your story might be inspiring. Sure, people might nod and say, "That's nice." But it wouldn't be undeniable. And God isn't just after inspiring stories. He's after evidence. Evidence that makes skeptics uncomfortable. Evidence that shakes certainty. Evidence that reignites faith in hearts that went cold. You've noticed the shift, haven't you? How things are aligning in ways you didn't plan. Connections appearing unexpectedly. Doors opening without force. People from your past returning with pieces meant for your future. Situations you thought were finished suddenly breathing again. This isn't coincidence. This is positioning. Heaven is arranging your life so that your proof lands where it will matter most. And when it fully unfolds, because it already has begun, people will scramble for explanations. They'll call it luck, timing, mindset, anything except the truth. But none of those explanations will hold up. You didn't scheme your way here. You didn't network your way into this season. You didn't manifest your way into survival. And when people look closer, when they examine how you endured what should have destroyed you, how you're thriving where others with more resources failed, they'll hit a wall. And at that wall, they'll have to confront a reality they've avoided. They aren't just looking at you. They're looking at God through you. And this season isn't coming someday. It's now. When a life becomes evidence, it doesn't stay hidden. Proof attracts attention. Not because you're chasing visibility, but because light cannot be concealed. People will notice without you saying a word. Some will observe quietly, studying you like an anomaly, trying to decode how you're still standing. Some will draw closer, desperate for a formula they can replicate. And some will turn away, because your life dismantles excuses they've protected for years. That's the cost of being proof. You comfort those who are hungry for truth, but you confront those who've settled for complacency. You give hope to the desperate, but you unsettle those who'd rather deny God than change. And remember this deeply. You are not responsible for their reaction. Your assignment is not to argue, persuade, or convince. Your assignment is simply to live. Because proof doesn't debate. It exists, and existence preaches louder than words ever could. No one argues gravity. Falling objects explain it. No master musician defends their gift. The sound speaks. No oak tree explains its growth. Its roots and height tell the story. In the same way, you don't need to defend your journey. Your survival speaks. Your peace speaks. Your transformation speaks. And what will astonish people most is this: you won't just make it through. You will flourish, not fragile, not barely holding on, but whole. Peace that doesn't match circumstances. Joy untethered to outcomes. Strength that clearly isn't self-made. That's why some doors were delayed. Heaven wasn't withholding, it was preparing. Because when the unveiling came, The evidence needed to be undeniable. And now, with this unveiling, comes sacred weight. Being proof is holy. Your choices matter more. Your integrity carries greater influence. Your presence shifts rooms whether you realize it or not. You are carrying more than your own life now. You are carrying revelation. And through you, heaven is making itself known. This isn't meant to weigh you down with the burden of perfection. Never that. It's meant to awaken you to the holiness of what you're carrying. There is something resting on your life that others can sense even when they can't explain it. You are hosting heaven in human form, a living sanctuary, a moving testimony of grace. People may not have language for it, but their spirits recognize it the moment you enter a space. And yes, this will attract resistance. Some will envy what they see unfolding in you. Others will try to reduce your story. Call it luck, timing, connections, or privilege. They'll dismiss the battles you fought and minimize the cost it took to get here. They'll reach for any explanation that allows them to avoid the truth, that the hand of God is unmistakably resting on your life. But understand this, that resistance itself is evidence. Only undeniable proof creates that kind of inner disturbance. Religious systems especially struggle with living evidence. They prefer God contained, scheduled, predictable, limited to buildings and rituals. But you are proof that God refuses confinement. You demonstrate that He steps into chaos, enters broken spaces, and moves powerfully in lives that don't fit tidy categories. So don't make yourself smaller to soothe their discomfort. Don't question your assignment just because visibility feels unfamiliar. You didn't survive everything you endured just to retreat now. The same power that preserved you when you should have collapsed. The same grace that carried you when everything was unraveling. That power hasn't left. It's increasing. Instead of pulling back, step forward with quiet confidence. Let your life keep preaching without words. Let it speak in boardrooms where faith is never mentioned, yet decisions shift because you're present. Let it speak in homes where hope has been buried for years. Let it testify in everyday moments, over coffee, in conversation, among strangers who sense something different but don't know why. And even among those who thought they had you figured out. Let your transformation keep speaking. I'll never forget standing in a hospital elevator months ago. A woman looked at me and suddenly began to cry. She said, "I don't know you, but I've been begging God for a sign. My son is dying upstairs, and I've lost hope. But there's something about you." That short elevator ride became sacred ground. I didn't preach. I simply said, "God sees you. He's closer than you think." Later, she told me that moment gave her strength to believe again. That's what happens when you carry proof. Every place you enter becomes potential holy ground. Every room becomes an opportunity for heaven to reveal itself. And the beauty of it is this: you don't have to force it. You don't have to manufacture outcomes or manage perception. The same God who authored your story is the one presenting it. When He places a life on display as evidence, no opposition can bury it. No scheme can twist it. No force can silence it. What He has written into your bones will surface, naturally, powerfully, unmistakably. You're stepping into days where your presence alone will answer questions people didn't even know how to ask. Someone will sit across from you in a meeting, and hope will awaken in them without you saying a word. Doubters who swore they only believe what they can see will struggle with your existence, because your life removes the option of denial. Your story makes unbelief uncomfortable. And this is only the beginning. Being proof isn't about personal validation. It's about multiplication. What you carry is seed. Your endurance will awaken courage in those ready to quit. Your transformation will ignite hunger in people who thought they were beyond repair. Your breakthrough will give someone else permission to believe again. That's why you were preserved, not just for survival, but for influence that stretches beyond your lifetime. Not for applause, not for platforms, but for impact that reaches generations you may never meet. I once met an elderly man in a grocery store who said something I'll never forget. He said, "I've watched many people talk about God. Some sing about Him. But every once in a while, you meet someone who looks like they've been with Him. You can't fake that." Then he added, "My grandson doesn't believe in God, but I'm going to tell him about you. Not to argue, just to show him proof. So walk forward. Not with arrogance, never that, but with holy confidence. Stop apologizing for the grace evident on your life. Stop minimizing miracles to make others comfortable. Stop dimming your light just because it exposes shadows. Honor what God has placed on you by living fully in it. Because when you shine, the glory doesn't stay with you. It points upward. Every testimony traces back to its author. Every miracle reveals its source. One day, when your story is told, they won't say, "Look how strong they were." They'll say, "Look at what God did through someone who said yes." That is what it means to be evidence. You become the living echo of a God who is still active, still faithful, still intervening. Proof that heaven hasn't gone silent. Proof that prayers still reach the throne. Proof that impossibilities are still His specialty. Ready or not. Certain or unsure. With answers or without them. This is who you are becoming. The preparation is finished. The moment is here. Your season as living proof has begun. And let me tell you something few people talk about. When God chooses someone as evidence, He doesn't only transform their spirit, He restructures their provision. You've been wondering how the resources will come, haven't you? How the calling can be sustained when the numbers don't add up. But heaven doesn't operate on earthly math. You're about to learn what it means when God becomes your provider in ways that defy logic. Provision will begin arriving before the need is even spoken. Opportunities will appear fully formed. Doors will open that you never knocked on. Why? Because proof requires platforms, and God never assigns without supplying. I remember being invited to an event I couldn't afford to attend. The cost was impossible. I prayed, confused, wondering why God would open a door I couldn't walk through. Days later, a check arrived from an insurance claim I'd forgotten about. The exact amount needed, down to the dollar. They called it a system error. But there is nothing accidental about divine provision. And this is the season where moments like that stop being rare and start becoming normal in your life. Seeds you planted long ago, prayers, sacrifices, acts of obedience you almost forgot, are beginning to surface. Harvests are emerging from places you never expected to see fruit again. Support will come from unfamiliar faces. People you've never met will feel compelled to invest in you, partner with you, and resource what you're building. They won't be able to explain the pull. They'll just know they're supposed to help. But hear this clearly. The abundance approaching you isn't for hoarding. It's for display. Every blessing flowing toward you is meant to move through you, as visible evidence that God still provides for those He chooses. Your increase will answer prayers you never heard. Your breakthrough will give permission for someone else to believe again. The ideas stirring in your spirit right now are not random creativity. They're strategic deposits from heaven. That business concept, that book outline, that program or service you've been delaying. It's not merely a venture. It's a vessel, a way God positions you before audiences traditional ministry could never reach. Some of you have been wrestling with feelings of inadequacy. You look at your credentials, your background, your experience, and think, I don't belong in the rooms opening to me. And that is exactly the point. When you succeed where you weren't trained, when you lead where you weren't invited, when you thrive in spaces you weren't qualified for, people are forced to confront the truth. This isn't human effort. Your lack of conventional credentials becomes part of the evidence. I remember sitting in a corporate boardroom filled with elite degrees and polished resumes. And yet, when I spoke, clarity fell over the room. Solutions emerged that had stalled for months. Afterward, the CEO pulled me aside and said, "That insight didn't come from experience alone." He was right. That's what happens when God turns someone into proof. He supplies wisdom you didn't study, favor you didn't earn, access you didn't chase. Right now, heaven is arranging connections you could never manufacture, no matter how much money or networking you had. People in influential places will dream about you. Others will hear your name repeatedly in a short span of time and feel nudged to reach out. Some will accidentally discover your work at the exact moment they need it. This isn't branding. This isn't strategy. This is divine placement. The resistance you endured in earlier seasons wasn't random. The opposition was fierce because the enemy understood what was coming. He knew that once you stepped fully into position, once provision, platform, and purpose aligned, silencing the proof would be impossible. But he failed. You're still standing, still believing, still here. And now the wounds meant to disqualify you have become credentials. The scars meant to shame you now testify for you. The season where you survived with little has trained you to steward much. The marketplace is about to witness something rare. Excellence that doesn't originate in human ability, but divine enablement. Your work will carry a weight that training alone can't explain. Your decisions will reflect insight beyond experience. Your presence will shift environments, not just spiritually, but professionally. Because proof doesn't switch itself off. It shows up everywhere. And there's something else happening, something you're just beginning to feel. Your proof is multiplying. What God has done in you isn't meant to remain singular. It's designed to spread. Every person who encounters God's reality through your life becomes a potential carrier of that same evidence. You're not just a testimony. You're a multiplier. Not just evidence, an activator. That's why people have been gravitating toward you lately. They can't articulate the pull, but their spirit recognizes what you carry. It's not charisma. It's not personality. It's the proof resonating through you. These aren't coincidences. They're appointments with people whose own faith is dormant, waiting to awaken through proximity to yours. I saw this firsthand when someone I barely interacted with began opening up about their struggles. I never preached. I just lived honestly. Months later, she told me, "Watching how you handled your life made me believe God was real again." Her transformation became proof for her family. That's how multiplication works. Even your dreams are part of this. Those faces you keep seeing, they're real. Those unfamiliar places, you'll stand there. Those scenarios that feel unreal, they're previews. But here's what may surprise you most. Sometimes multiplication happens without words. Your calm when others panic will speak volumes. Your forgiveness when bitterness is justified will preach powerfully. Your peace in storms that should crush you will demonstrate God more clearly than arguments ever could. I was once in a meeting where bad news dropped, the kind that usually triggers fear. Everyone spiraled. I didn't. I stayed calm. Someone finally asked how. I simply said, "I've survived worse, with less." Later, several people privately asked me about my faith. My peace became the message. This multiplication is happening in the unseen realm too. Every time you choose trust over fear, love over resentment, hope over despair, you alter the atmosphere. You create pockets of heaven where others can breathe again. Your home is becoming one. Your workplace is becoming one. Even your online presence is becoming one. This is why the enemy tried to isolate you, to convince you your story didn't matter, that it was too messy, too ordinary. He knew isolation would stop the spread. But God refused to let you disappear. He kept positioning you, kept drawing eyes, kept connecting hearts, because proof can't multiply if it stays hidden. And the financial increase coming your way carries the same purpose. It's not just provision, it's fuel. Every resource placed in your hands carries the capacity to plant proof in others. What you support, who you help, where you give, all of it becomes part of the multiplication chain. I learned this when I gave what felt like my last financial margin to help someone else begin again. That seed wasn't just money. It was evidence planted, and that evidence multiplied. This is the season you're stepping into now. Her business now supports 12 other single mothers, and every one of them knows the faith that gave birth to it. What began as one life transformed has now touched dozens of families. That's how heaven operates. One seed of lived evidence can grow into an entire forest of belief. You might be listening and thinking, "This feels far too big for someone like me." And that right there is exactly why you were chosen. God has always displayed the extraordinary through the ordinary. Moses struggled to speak, yet became a voice for a nation. David tended sheep before he confronted giants. Mary was young, unknown, and overlooked, yet carried destiny itself. Your normality is not a flaw in the plan. It's part of the design. If you were impressive by the world's standards, people could dismiss what happens through you. But when someone ordinary walks in uncommon strength, when someone wounded carries wholeness, when someone who should have been defeated stands in victory, explanations collapse. The only answer left is God. What's beginning now will create sacred tension. Not loud arguments, not religious debates, but quiet collisions between truth and denial. Your peace will unsettle chaos. Your joy will expose bitterness. Your freedom will highlight bondage. Some will feel uncomfortable around you without knowing why. They may feel confronted, not because you accuse them, but because your life challenges the story they've told themselves about God being absent, silent, or uninvolved. I experienced this at a family gathering. A relative who had turned fiercely against faith kept trying to provoke debate. I refused to argue. I stayed calm. I served. I loved. After days of this, he broke down and said, "Stop being so whole. It's forcing me to question everything I decided about God." He wasn't angry at me. He was wrestling with the evidence my life presented. But for every person who pulls away, many more will draw closer. Those who are hungry. Those who are desperate. Those who secretly hope God is real. They will recognize what you carry instinctively, like someone who hasn't eaten in days recognizing bread. Your story will nourish them. Your journey will strengthen them. Your proof will give them permission to believe again. This moment matters because the world is starving for something real. In an age of artificial connection, artificial success, artificial certainty. Your genuine transformation stands out like a lighthouse in fog. While everything else is curated and filtered, your raw journey from brokenness to stability speaks louder than perfection ever could. Heaven timed your emergence intentionally. When institutions are failing, you embody a kingdom that doesn't shake. When anxiety is rampant, you demonstrate peace that still works. When relationships fracture, you reveal that love still restores. The pain you endured years ago was preparation for someone you haven't met yet. The wisdom you gained in past valleys is medicine for someone standing on a mountain now. Your current breakthrough is aligned with someone else's breaking point. Timing has been exact. But let me be honest with you. As the evidence becomes clearer, resistance will grow more subtle. Some will explain your story away with psychology. Others will try to replicate results without relationship. Some will attempt to purchase what can only be formed through surrender. There may be moments you wonder if this assignment is worth the wait. When that happens, remember this: you weren't chosen because you're capable enough. You were chosen because you're yielded enough. Your weakness doesn't disqualify you. It clarifies the source. Not long ago, I wanted to disappear from visibility altogether. The pressure felt unbearable. Then a message came from a teenager in another country who had planned to end her life. She said she stumbled across my story and decided to live one more day. That day became her turning point. That's when I understood. Being proof isn't about personal comfort. It's about divine appointments already scheduled. And now, acceleration is beginning. What has been dormant will move. What was stuck will shift. What seemed impossible will open. Not because you perfected yourself, but because heaven's calendar says now. The season of preparation is ending. The season of demonstration is beginning. The next few months will carry momentum you haven't experienced before. Write things down. Remember the details. Not for attention, but because someone in your future will need every piece of your story to survive their own storm. You're not standing at an ending. You're standing at a beginning. Every tear was consecration. Every trial documented evidence. What you've carried is not temporary. It will echo beyond your lifetime. But heaven is asking something of you now. Will you fully accept this calling? Will you allow yourself to be seen without shrinking? Will you stop minimizing what God has done to make others comfortable? Because half evidence convinces no one. I remember the moment I finally said yes, not from strength, but from surrender. Everything felt lost. And that's when I heard, "Now you're ready." Not because you can do it, but because you know you can't without Him. That same shift is happening for you. As you agree internally, things are moving externally. Connections are activating. Provision is aligning. Doors are responding. Your proof will look different from someone else's. For some, it will be healing. For others, provision. For others, restored relationships. But all will point to the same truth. God is still involved, still present, still working. You may feel the fear. Everyone who carried evidence before you felt it. But awe is about to replace fear. You are about to witness what happens when heaven moves through a surrendered life. Months from now, you'll look back and barely recognize who you were. Authority will rest on you quietly. Wisdom will flow naturally. Confidence will rise, not from ego, but from alignment. When people ask what happened, you may not have words. So let your life answer. Being proof doesn't mean a flawless path. It means every battle becomes a platform. Every valley becomes elevation. Your humanity doesn't cancel the assignment, it amplifies it. Your life is someone's answered prayer. Your endurance is someone's permission to keep going. Your transformation is someone's doorway to belief. You are not optional in this story. You are essential. So step forward. Enter rooms you didn't plan for. Speak when your voice shakes. Dream bigger than logic allows. You are no longer moving alone. You are moving as living evidence. Whether you feel ready or not, this is your moment. Heaven is attentive. Earth is watching. And your life is about to testify. This isn't a goodbye. It's a commissioning. You came searching for confirmation. You leave carrying it. Place your hand over your heart. That pulse you feel? That's purpose alive inside you. That's destiny demanding expression. I release this blessing over you. May closed doors open at your presence. May provision find you without struggle. May the right people locate you at the right time. May your story ignite faith far beyond your reach. The shift has already begun. You are not who you were when you started listening. Walk forward knowing this. You are becoming undeniable evidence that God is faithful, present, and still moving. The word is released. The seal is set. And your miracle is in motion.